Hello everyone, and welcome back to the RG Models 86 channel. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the latest steam locomotive to be released from Accurascale, the J67 class, nicknamed the Buckjumper. So join me as I take you through the details, the running qualities, and the sound features. Let's get started. So the model I went for was the early example of the class, the J67 in Great Eastern Railway Ultramarine Blue with DCC sound. Inside the box you'll find the paperwork, which includes a comprehensive booklet that covers the entire history of the Buckjumpers, a full list of the DCC sound file, and the care and maintenance leaflet, which when opened up reveals the exploded diagram. You'll also find a warning card that talks about early analog controllers with feedback and the possible damage that they can impose upon newer models today. It's always highly recommended to use a modern analog controller that doesn't use feedback. Now, I'm going to pause here for a moment and talk about the size of the main box. Although Accurascale's larger than usual packaging means that damage to the model is minimized, I do feel that smaller padded boxes will protect the contents equally as well. It also means that for those of us who collect Accurascale models and keep them in their original boxes, we'll have more storage space to work with. But anyway, back to the review. Inside the ice block packing is a pair of tweezers, whose purpose will be shown later in the video. The accessories bag contains metal etched number plates, cosmetic couplings, and 15 pairs of interchangeable destination boards, plus a pair of blank boards. The model doesn't come with any fireman's tools or lamps, but these can be easily obtained. Now, I'm not sure if this is the same for everybody, but I have a duplicate pair of Liverpool Street destination boards. As well as the set fixed onto the model, there's also another set in the accessory bag. I don't know whether or not this is a mistake, so let me know in the comments below if your Buckjumper has duplicate boards too. Now, let's move on to the details of this amazing loco. Accurascale has really gone all out on the details of this model, as you'll see in the following close-ups. There's a lot on show, but highlights include the safety valve assembly on top of the boiler, the Westinghouse air brake pump, the whistle valve, sprung buffers, the pipework, the rear cab window guards, the air brake pipes, and the clack valves. Although it's made of plastic, the handrails show no signs of distortion. And despite the fact that you can't see it that well, the internal valve gear is also represented under the boiler between the frames. Changing the destination boards is done by careful use with a pair of tweezers. It's a bit fiddly, but just persevere. They're held in place by friction, so they won't fall off. The main highlight, however, has to be the cab. When you remove the cab roof, which is held securely by 4 magnets, you'll be greeted with more details than you can count. Everything is here, from the regulator and reversing wheel, the printed gauge dials, the handbrake, even the water feed taps for the injectors, and the levers that control the dampers under the fire grate. I honestly don't think that anything is missing from this cab. Now, one thing that is missing is the coal load in the bunker. Applying your own isn't difficult, but it's rather curious that this detail has been left out. If you wish to add a footplate crew to your Buckjumper, then Accurascale do offer a full-colour 3D printed driver and fireman through their website. With the details looked at, let's now turn our attention to the livery. The GER Ultramarine Blue livery is really striking. Of all the liveries on offer for this model, this has to be one of, if not the best livery, and the red lining is just perfectly applied and really contrasts against the deep blue. The company lettering on the side of the tanks is printed clearly, as is the numbering on both buffer beams and the number plates on either side of the coal bunker. And the internal walls of the cab haven't been left out either, being painted in a medium orange, while the inside of the cab roof sports a light ochre yellow. Next, onto the mechanism. Now, before we look at the mechanism, I must point out an error in the instructions of how the body shell is detached from the chassis. Reading the instructions, they say to disengage 4 clips, which are shown in the illustration. However, there are no clips to disengage on the model. But what's worse is that a very important step in the disassembly of the model isn't mentioned, and that's the removal of the decoder carrying raft. Now, I don't know if the removal of the body shell was different at the beginning of the project, and that's what the instructions reflect, or whether there was a miscommunication with the individuals who were responsible for writing up the instructions. But regardless, it does unfortunately cause a lot of confusion. So to safely remove the chassis from the body, here is the correct procedure. First, remove the smoke box door, which like the cab roof is attached to the model with magnets. Next, using the supplied tweezers, carefully remove the decoder carrying raft by engaging the tweezers into the holes provided on the circuit board. Carefully turn the model upside down and remove the NEM coupling sockets from their housings. Finally, undo the following 3 screws from the chassis: the screw from the rear under the cab, and the 2 screws either side of the center one at the front. The center screw can be left in place. Now, the chassis can be carefully lifted out of the body shell. And to reassemble the model, you simply reverse the process. Now let's take a look at the mechanism. The Buckjumper is fitted with a coreless motor and brass flywheel to provide smooth running. The helical gearbox allows for slow speed running. The gears are also ratioed to mimic a scale top speed of 50 miles an hour, or 80 kilometers an hour. My model is a digital sound fitted example, so it also comes with a Next 18 ESU Locksound V5 microdecoder and twin sugar cube speakers. Stay alive capacitors are also wired in to provide power over dirty track or dead spots in the layout. The orange LED will provide the firebox light flicker, which you'll see later. When it comes time to lubricate the gears, it's best to apply oil to the gear stack from above, as access from below is hampered by the brake rigging being in the way of the basekeeper plate, and it's more trouble than it's worth to try and remove it. You'll also have to carefully unscrew the main circuit board from the chassis because the oiling point is right underneath the firebox LED. And so, with everything looked at and the model back together, let's get her onto the track and let her stretch her wheels. Straight out of the box, the Buckjumper was already a smooth runner. Nevertheless, I still allowed the model to properly run in before subjecting her to any tests, and I fully recommend you do the same with any brand new model. This is the loco maxed out at the scale top speed of 50 miles an hour. It doesn't look unrealistic, but if this were the real thing, you'd be hanging on for dear life. They were called Buckjumpers for a reason. Before we conduct the strength test, let's listen to some of the sound functions. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of the DCC controller I'm using, I can't play all the sound file, but you get an idea of how amazing this model sounds. Now, let's move on to the strength test. The Buckjumper has a metal chassis and boiler, so all the weight is positioned evenly over the wheels. Therefore, we should see some interesting results. To start with, we'll use these, the Hatton's Genesis coaches in the appropriate GER livery. There's only 4 of them, so this is more of a warm-up before the real test actually begins. If you've seen my review of Rapido's Sterling Single, you'll have noticed that we're on a different layout. The gradients here are much shallower, but the curves are much sharper, generating more drag on the rolling stock. So this will still be a good demonstration of the Buckjumper's pulling power as the test progresses. If we're going to properly test this model, we'll need something more heavy than the Genesis coaches. These'll do just fine. As you see, 3 Mark 1s doesn't phase her in the slightest. Bear in mind that the combined weight and drag of these coaches is significantly greater than the Genesis coaches, and the Buckjumper isn't even running at top speed yet. Let's try adding a 4th Mark 1. There's a little bit of wheel slip now, but once again the little Buckjumper is taking it in her stride, not even breaking a sweat. Let's see what she does with 5 Mark 1s. Oh, now she's starting to struggle. And she's lost traction at the foot of the incline. The drag of the coaches on the tight curve was too much for her. Let's try again, only this time we'll ramp her up to maximum speed. Right, she's past the point she got to last time, but she's really struggling even with the extra speed. But she's not giving up. And that's all she wrote. On this layout's inclines, 4 Mark 1s is the absolute limit for the Buckjumper. But that's still admirable. And as far as the strength test on flat and level track is concerned, well, I think this shot says it all. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, you counted correctly. 9. 9 Mark 1s on flat and level track. As far as strength goes, this model's an absolute powerhouse. So overall, the Buckjumper is a fantastic model. The details and livery are flawless in their application, the DCC sounds are clear and crisp, the performance is silky smooth, and the tractive effort, well, that has to be seen to be believed. The only drawbacks I can see are the brake rigging being in the way of removing the basekeeper plate for maintenance, and the inaccurate instructions on how to dismantle the loco. But, that said, Accurascale have still done an outstanding job on this model. It was definitely worth the wait, and I can't wait to see the upcoming Great Western 5700 pannier tank they've got in the pipeline. And so that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you too have bought a Buckjumper, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this latest release from Accurascale? As with the Sterling Single, there'll be a follow-up video featuring the Buckjumper as she travels around the layout. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell so as not to miss out on this and other uploads in the future. I've been RG Models 86, and until I see you in the next video, stay safe and well. Bye everyone.